G'day cocktail lovers, it's that time of the year. Christmas, if you celebrate, and honestly, even if you don't, it's quite difficult to miss. I mean, some parts of the world easier than others, but where I am, very, very Christmassy. So, hell, special occasion to do special cocktails. I think Christmas cocktails fall into a couple of categories. You can get to call them Christmassy if there's something quite traditional, like eggnog, or a Snowball, something that has advocaat in it, or even a hot toddy. Second, if it's just like sort of like Christmas colours, like Christmas decorations, traditional berries and holly, so like red, green. And the other one is if you somehow get a Christmassy name for the cocktail. And I'm going to do a couple of cocktails, give you ideas for things you can serve for Christmas, getting in a little bit early so you have time to prepare. And the first one is one with the name. I found this one on the Difford's Guide website. Simon Difford invented this. There's a little joke about the elf on the shelf. The cocktail is called the elf on the shelf, and his whole thing was like, well, I'm just going to take the first letter of each of those words and have an ingredient that matches that. So E for elf is elderflower, elderflower liqueur. O for on the shelf is orange liqueur. In my case, I am going to use my homemade blood orange liqueur. Bit more Halloweeny than Christmassy, but I'm going to roll with it. And T for the is tequila. Not something I often associate with Christmas, but I like tequila, so that's going in. And S for shelf is sherry. That's a bit of a traditional one, particularly with the English Christmas, something that we have inherited here in Australia. Those are the ingredients of an elf on the shelf. I'll show you how to make it. In a mixing glass, put 1.5 ounces or 45 mils of blanco tequila, then half an ounce or 15 mils of sherry. Follow that with half an ounce or 15 mils of elderflower liqueur, then 1/4 of an ounce, around 7.5 mils of orange liqueur. Add ice to the glass, stir that for 20 to 25 seconds to chill and dilute the drink. Then I'm straining that into a chilled Nicodora glass, and for a garnish, I'm doing a maraschino cherry on a skewer. On Difford's Guide, he recommended just splashing a little bit of a red liqueur in there. But again, the Christmassy red colour. I just thought a maraschino cherry is a very Christmassy thing. You get the fruits in like Christmas pud and all that sort of thing. And so that's what I went with. But geez, I've got to taste this one. This is really quite nice. This is like an after dinner drink. This is at the end of Christmas when you're chilling out. This is more sophisticated than a lot of drinks that get themed around Christmas are. Even with the cutesy name, Elf on the Shelf. It's a very grown-up drink. I think you'd like it, and it's worth trying. Cocktail number 2 is inspired by something that's very traditional, particularly if you're in England. My other half grew up in England. She talked about having a Snowball every Christmas. And that's essentially advocaat, lime juice, and some lemonade, or club soda, whatever you want to call it. It's like Sprite. When in the UK and Australia, when we say lemonade, we usually mean something that's like Sprite. It's, you know, just one of those cultural differences. People in the US get weirded out by it, but, you know, accept it, I guess. People are different, even when you think they're mostly the same. If you're unfamiliar with advocaat, it's essentially like a custard liqueur. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's like a cousin of eggnog, and it had for a long time been traditional in Christmas drinks in Europe. The Snowball I mentioned, quite simple. Advocaat, lime juice, and lemonade. And it's quite yummy. You know, you can give it to the kids, you just put a little bit of advocaat, and there's not really much booze when you give it to them. I was looking at various things, and this was going back to last Christmas, I found a recipe for something called a whiskey lift that reminded me of the structure of a Snowball, but it had whiskey in it. And it said to use cream, not advocaat. And I just thought, yeah, chuck out the cream and put advocaat in, then you've got like a whiskey Snowball. And I never got around to making it last Christmas. So it's been in my notes since last Christmas saying, make this for Christmas. And so I'm actually doing it this year. Besides the advocaat, as I said, it's got whiskey. And I've chosen this one. This is a really nice flavoured Australian whiskey. It was aged in Pinot Noir, red wine barrels. It's from Heliers Road in Tasmania. And there's also a little bit of coffee liqueur called for in this. You could use whatever coffee liqueur you like. I'm using this coffee-infused whiskey from Archie Rose they call Blasphemy. You could even just use coffee if you're a real coffee fiend, and also you'd be lowering the alcohol content a little. Those are the key elements of my whiskey Snowball, and I'm going to put the Advocaat in first because it's really thick, and I'm figuring that goes in the jigger first. The other ingredients will kind of wash the residue out. So it's probably going to look a little bit gross as I pour the other things in because it'll be Advocaat mixed with whiskey, etc. But we're grown-ups, we can deal with it. Here's how we make it. In a shaker, we put 1 ounce or 30 mils of Advocaat, then half an ounce or 15 mils of orgeat, and 1.5 ounces or 45 mils of whiskey, and then half an ounce or 15 mils of coffee liqueur. Add ice to the shaker, shake that really hard for at least 15 seconds because we want to make sure that Advocaat is integrated with everything else. And I'm straining that into a tall glass filled with ice, and we're going to top that off with lemonade, club soda, even soda water. Do something that's to your taste. When you've got it, give it a little mix. Want to get that all in there? Let's try this. Oh, this is good. Wow, I guess I'd say this was worth waiting for. I meant to make it last year, and I didn't even test make it. I've just made it this year. The coffee element's good, but if you like coffee flavour, don't be scared to beef it up. I mean, then it's going to be a very interesting chilled coffee drink after that. I'm not super big on the coffee, so I'm happy with that little half ounce of the coffee liqueur in there, but this is really tasty. I'd say make a simpler Snowball for the younger folk, and you're a grown-up, have a whiskey Snowball. There's my suggestions for Christmas drinks, and look, whether or not you celebrate or mark Christmas, I just hope you're looking after yourself. I hope you've had a good year. If you've been any part of my channel all this year, I really want to thank you for being here, and I do hope you're around in the future. Hope you come back and see me. There'll be plenty more cocktails in the new year, and I'd like to share them with you. So take care, and until I see you again, I will say cheers.